Direction, choose your own path.
You know, this is the home of We Major, Me Frosty, Unfamous, and the restricted clothing brands. Let's get it.
The message is always in the cloth, the colors, the designs, the fit. Basic. Pay attention, stay alert, and remember, choose your own path.
Yo, like, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. Hit that like button right now if you can. That helps the channel the most. Shaw, what's popping?
Yo, what's the hell?
What's goody? How you?
I'm good, man. The arm's getting better, bro. I had rehab today. They told me, man, you've been here for 2 months. We trying to get you out of here by 3, man. So they pushing it. Like you said, though, it's time. I'm missing the gym, missing hitting that jump shot, getting called OG by all the young fellas. So, man, just trying to get back healthy. Candy Cody, sayonara, you know what I mean? My goal is to have a draft done by the end of this month, man, so we can get popping. So again, man, every time I see that money that we raise, man, I'm just appreciative for what y'all made happen for me, man. So it's exciting, an exciting time for me in general, bro.
What's up, man? We proud of you, man.
Yes, sir.
Proud of you. We grinding. Let's get it, man. Salute.
Absolutely.
Salute. Hold up.
Oh my God, it can't be. Wait, what in the name? Look up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's a super perspective. Come on in if you're late. Real men, rivers also ladies, you know for sure it's safe. So join in for a smoke if you can't relate. If you super, you can bring your cape. It's all about standing 10 toes. About the ladies, not the hoes. It's about giving game back to the bros, so we can make sure the community grows. Super ham, super Sean, and super short. Just man point of views and news with no facade. If you never had powers, then you might think it's odd. Seeing brothers saving the day and we on the job, fighting off haters and villains from everywhere. Probably hit his chick and she said I never cared. From lames to incels, red pill, come pull up a chair. It's not a perspective, we not like the rest, but you already knew it's a super perspective. Different outlooks on the stats and news. It's a super perspective, we're just super niggas doing what super niggas do.
Fishing was popping. Boot camp in the building. E-Dub in the building. What up, my brother? Good to see you. Miss Bell's in the building. Victim Olympics. Salute. My brother D Majesty was popping. Impress putting in work. That's always a blessing. We like it. We like it. We like it. TC, what up, my boy? I ain't seen you in a couple days. Hope all is well. You heard? JVZ in the building. Fo putting in work. You already know. Email that man directly if you need tunes for yourself. You heard? Mel, you already know. EJ, what up, baby? Good to see you. Melly Mel in the building. Salute, salute, salute. My brother Li was shaking, my G. Good to see you. Did you shoot me that email? Shoot me that email. This might be risky at Gmail, please. Zeke, what up? Shalom. Quincy in the building, of course. Salute, salute, salute. Mr. JTK in the building. What up, kid? Good to see you. Hope all is well, man. Like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Hit that like button right now if you can. That helps the channel the most, man. Hit the like, hit the share, hit all that. Uno, what up, baby? Good to see you, man. You know? Hit the like button, hit the like button, hit the like button, man.
Perfect. Shit like that. Shit like that. Shit like
Dallas,
that.
what up? Shaw.
Yo.
You know, when you first came on the scene, that was one of the biggest impacts you made addressing the stats. Anthony, what up, kid? I was perplexed when I heard 50% of black women had herpes.
Yikes.
And I'm pretty sharp. And I was so taken aback, I didn't inquire any further.
Mm-hmm.
One, the brother that told me I trust with the information. You know what I mean?
Shout out, fantastic.
You know? But
Yep.
the context mattered uberly in that instance.
That's an important word you just said right there. Context.
Indeed.
It's important.
And then as we dig down, I'm learning more and more from you, from Strata, from Sean, just what is the agenda behind producing this? Who's funding it? So what's the benefit of the person doing this study and how does it benefit them? Right? The buzzword would be agenda. And I want to use it because it has a negative connotation and almost rightfully so, to be honest.
Right.
Because if you want to propagate a thing, you do it with data and statistics because that still mans it.
Yep.
So we think.
Yep.
I'm in the Discord having a conversation with my black brothers. And I'm saying that because I need to preface it like that. And they saying, yo, if she said 30% of us have a felony, then we got to be accountable. I said, read it again for me. I said, it's estimated that 30% of black men have a felony. I said, estimated is soft instantly, right? Because we know have a felony mean there's a conviction, which means there's a number associated with that person. You can literally count it. People die, you can literally subtract the people that are dead from the people that are living and you don't even need an estimation.
Right.
And then it said 2010 and it's 2025. That's an entire generation. Am I wrong?
Right.
And so I'm saying this, my first time even hearing it, breaking it down. But we so ready to be whatever it is, we taking that shit on the chin.
That's a fact.
But I'm opening with this because I got that from you. I got that from Strata. I got that from Sean. Just that looking at the stat differently in that way. So shout out. What was your inspiration from saying, Hamp, we got to break this shit down?
Yes, sir. So I studied at Morehouse School of Medicine for 2 years, where I received my Master's of Public Health. I had a focus in health administration and management, but I always tell people, like, I've always been good at school. I never really liked school. I hated the format, cities, particularly being a science kid. You had a lot of lectures, right? So while everybody else was kicking it in college, we had those 3-hour labs that happened after instruction, right? So you have class for an hour, then you got to sit for another 3 hours and do experiments, but I hated it. But my master's program was so dope because I got a chance to study population health. And the instructors were Black-centric, Black-focused. And they always talked about, like, we're going to teach y'all not what to think, but how to think, particularly in regards to numbers, stats, and things like that. Because what we know, what has been proven, that the stats can lie. I've heard another scientist who came up by the name of CJ say, the stats is the stats. No, brother, that's not how this goes. Now I'm adding a new title to I consider myself, I'm a public health practitioner. I'm a writer and director. Now I'm a Black propagandist, right? That's what I am too, right? So I really appreciated the show today. You know, Sherelle was on her dean. She rocked out. I think it was she came ready, and I want to in some ways be like the other side of that, right? Not tell lies, but make sure I'm promoting what's good, what's positive about Black people, and also again making us be hesitant to kind of just accept information the way we have. I think we've gotten a really bad habit of conducting what I call bad science.
Yeah.
And what I know is that, you know, the format in which we do it it's a lot more entertaining, right? It makes the conversations more engaging when we can just throw it out there and kind of fight over the crumbs. But stats are used so laymen, people who don't necessarily do firsthand research, can have conversations. So on its face, it's not a negative thing, right? If you've never, that's how we communicate about what's going on in the world using statistics. That's just what we do. It's easily digestible.
Yes.
But as you mentioned, context is very important when having those conversations.
Yeah.
And my challenge is, particularly, I would say we're in the manosphere era.
Mm-hmm.
And if we've concluded that women at one point in time were doing similar things, then my argument is like these will have long-term, long-lasting effects that would be negative. And I want, as best as I can, as a person who actually studied and understands some of the principles, I want to fight against it. I don't want to shut anybody up. That's been said. I don't want us to not have the conversation. I want to, at least, if we're gonna use stats. Stats are like the new muscle car that everybody's driving. If we're gonna do that, I want to make sure we know how to drive that stick, because we're gonna crash. So that's kind of what inspired. I said, and then what happened, it was a couple of videos that came across my feed I never saw. We're gonna kind of get into those. So let's do that first. I want to jump into it because I made some notes. I want to make sure like this conversation is very accurate, rooted in science. So I want to have that conversation. So what I discovered, y'all, is I want to talk about myths, right? Things that we consider truth without any type of pushback, without any type of further research to make sure what we're considering to be truth. So I have a couple of videos that I've collected on the internet. And the first thing I want to show you, I found out was a myth, is the black dollar only circulates in the black community for 6 hours. That's something that we've all taken as a fact. So Hemp has a video that he's going to show y'all, and then we'll get into it.
I'll tell you after. It was beautiful. Thank you. Shah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to turn the video up, right?
Okay.
But I have to make sure we put everybody in the right mindset.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You got the show.
It's simple. It's this. This one first?
Yes, sir. No, not the black buying power. The one about the black dollar.
Yeah. Now, it's important to understand the premise of the conversation. That's why I always have to play the walk with me clip, because it's not what you think the conversation should be about. It's what's being addressed in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Listen close, right? I haven't seen these videos, so we learning together, If you have a question, super chat it so we can get to it, But we'll be timely with the questions because we don't want to interrupt the thought train either. Ready?
Yep.
History way too many people believe. Have you ever heard this saying?
One more time. Hit the like button, hit the like button, hit the like button, man.
Fake Black history way too many people believe. Have you ever heard this saying? The black dollar only circulates in the black community for 6 hours before leaving, but stays in the white community for 17 days. And Jewish dollars stay in the Jewish community for 19 days. And Asian dollars stay in the Asian community for 28 days. Well, what if I told you that was just all a lie? There are no credible sources for this claim. There's no research report. There's no study that can be tracked down. There's literally nothing. So why do so many people believe this? Here's what happened. Howard University has a media outlet called Truth Be Told News that actually fact checks misinformation about African Americans. And they fact checked this claim about 10 years ago. And here's what they found. The reporter's name on this study was Brooke Madison. And in her research, Madison could not find one report that could substantiate the claim. However, she did find this book by Brooke Stevens. In Brooke Stevens' books, she makes the assertion that the black dollar only stays in the black community for 6 hours before leaving. And then she cites a study. However, the study cannot be found anywhere. So Madison then reached out to the author, Brooke Stevens, to find out where the study is. And wouldn't you believe Brooke Stevens cannot locate the study either, and said, well, it came from this economist named John Ray that used to work for Howard University. So they contacted Howard University, and Howard University was like, we don't know him. No, never had an economist here that worked under that name. So this entire time, people have been parroting this misinformation about the Black community for years, all because of a book that actually had no sources for its claims. Now, of course, we want Black people to support Black-owned businesses, but the danger in the misinformation behind the 6-hour circulation quote is that it attributes the economic turmoil that the Black community faces due to our frivolous spending, as opposed to a strategic economic injustice that we have suffered for centuries in this country. So if you ever want to learn more about this myth on Truth Be Told News, check it out. Fake Black history.
That is sick. And you put a black face on it so we trust it.
Here's the thing, right? There's two things. One, the first, just as you said, the black face. I think even as Black people, we have to start even questioning each other and our intent. Because oftentimes, even now, right, we talk about how all of our intent of having these conversations of why we come here is to improve the Black community. And we take that on face value when people say, we don't question. Okay, that's why you have these conversations, because you want to improve the Black community. And so you see, like, you have a Black author who puts a book out like that, and we don't question it because she's Black. There's no way she could have nefarious intent.
Why would she say that?
Yeah. Why would she say that? But this lady, and I have the link, I actually have the link for the Truth Be Told News that kind of repeats the same information that she said. But if anybody wants to read it, they did the due diligence. They couldn't find the study. Now, what they did find, I guess we could pull up real quick, help. I'll try to get to the part that kind of explains where they could kind of find some information that leans towards it, but it was nothing exact. Do you need me to pull it up, or? Okay, I can't see it. Let me see. Okay.
Hold on. Is that better?
Yeah. If you scroll down, so I don't, because it's a long article.
Okay.
But I was trying to find, so everyone's familiar with Nelson. Like Nelson, we got to talk about Nelson, man, because Nelson is involved in a lot of information that seems to be very misleading. It's a lot to read, man.
Well, this part is interesting, right?
Okay.
Well, go ahead.
What part are you saying interesting? I'll read that part.
Well, that part. I'll read. I can see it. Other agencies like Small Business Administration kept track of Black businesses, but the SBA also does not compile figures that would allow a comparison of how often money circulates within the community. Right? Just that alone, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I look, like, let's say I were to just give it consideration.
Mm-hmm.
When I look, that would be a thing I would try to see, like how many businesses are owned in my proximity by people that look like me. And if I'm spending in my proximity and those people don't look like me, technically, does that dollar leave, you know?
Right.
Are corporations considered white owned? Like, is that
what they corporations are not people? So I don't know.
Yeah. So if I go to Safeway or, you know, Kroger, whatever the corporation is, does that mean that that dollar has left? You know, or you know what I mean? Like whose dollar is that?
And so this is like perfect. This is like the type of exercise when you're conducting social sciences. These are the type of hypotheses you have to come up with, but that you also have to develop a study design that could accurately assess these things. You see what I mean? Like, and it has to be scrutinized. Mm-hmm. This particular study right here, it got accepted some kind of way and even got produced in a book.
Yeah. And it was accepted by someone, you know?
Right.
And when you look at the places that are highly populated and Black, right? A lot of the things there are Black owned. The government is Black ran, you know, hence 600,000 jobs lost, right?
Right.
So what does it all mean exactly? Is the bank considered white? when I pay my mortgage?
I would assume so. Just off if we're just asking the question, I would assume so.
Okay. The key to denouncing this is it was never proven but repeated.
Right.
You know, and
because again, I want to reiterate, right?
Yeah.
Because I already know what some folks' idea might be. We're trying to make it seem like Black people don't have issues. Nah, right? Because we know there still needs to be more emphasis on Black business, right? Being more fiscal responsible. But we're also saying information gets disseminated to the public. It creates narratives around Black people that can be harmful. And it's Black people specifically being in the country that we know has no problem disseminating misleading information about us. We should be scrutinizing everything with a I'm gonna do what with a third eye.
Yeah.
But glasses, you know what I mean? That should be our MO. That should be our standard. Anytime information comes out, like what Strada says. But I don't want to get on my soapbox just yet, because we have another example of a similar myth that we all have seen to accept it. And I want to talk about that before I really dig into the scientific part of everything. So Hemp, if you could show the Black, right, and then so we'll show this video and then we'll show the next one.
Okay. Yep. Hit the like button, man. I'm interested in this, man. I haven't looked.
Have you ever heard this quote? The Black community has $1.7 trillion in Black buying power. What if I told you that's not true? And there's an entire book about this. It's called The Myth and Propaganda of Black Buying Power, Media, Race, and Economics by Dr. Jared Ball. According to Dr. Ball's research, this data is based on flawed analysis that does not account for the real economic experiences of African Americans. It comes from Nielsen, which is a company that provides research and data based on surveys. And this data is then used by members of the Black press and marketers in order to get corporations to spend ad dollars with them. But on the flip side, this data is weaponized against Black communities as a tool for making it seem like we are responsible for our own economic injustices and inequality that we face. Because we have all this economic power, why don't we own anything? Why don't we have more? What are we wasting our money on? However, consumerism is not an indicator of individual wealth and or collective wealth for the Black community. The so-called Black spending power does not account for the Black tax that Black communities face. It doesn't account for the fact that consumerism and higher costs could actually be an indicator of predatory companies and corporations. We are often paying higher in price, not because we are economically empowered, but because we're being systemically economically disempowered. The so-called Black spending power also doesn't account for consumer debt. So even if we try to pull all of that so-called $1.7 trillion in money together, it actually would not equal that amount. But I can already hear people in the comment section saying, but we spend money, we buy Jordans, we buy hair weaves. And even if we were to stop buying any of the items that come from your internalized anti-Black trope, it would not make us more economically sound than we are now. Because we have faced historically systemic structural economic barriers, which has led to us having income inequality and inequitable access to wealth and a limited access to assets. And again, consumer spending is not the same as economic empowerment. In fact, some of the higher spending is actually an indicator of our economic vulnerability and the predatory markets that prey on our communities. So please check out this book. And also, if you want to learn more about the myth of the circulating Black dollar, I recently found out that the Black Myths Pod did an episode on this. Also check that out. Have you ever heard this quote?
Now, there's another video, Hemp, that actually allows the guy who wrote the book, Dr. Jared Ball, and he's having a conversation with Mark Lamont Hill about this topic. I would love for everyone to see that one before we kind of dig into the discussion.
Yeah,
it's about 4 minutes, so hopefully you can start it around the 3 minute mark. where like they really get into the meat of the conversation. Let's see. Yeah, around there is cool. Yep.
Hit the like button.
Pieces and just involved and engaged in the media, I've heard what we've all heard, this repeating refrain that Black people have now approaching $1.8 trillion in buying power. And then it's followed shortly thereafter by something along the lines that if we had greater degrees of financial literacy, if we saved more, invested more, bought land and stock instead of rims, weed and hair and whatever, that we would be able to use those resources to develop in a very independent and revolutionary way, an independent Black economy, and solve all of these issues, including income and wealth gaps.
Is there any value in that, right? So, I mean, I think about the Black nationalist tradition. I'm thinking specifically, let me be more specific. Not just Black nationalist tradition. I'm thinking specifically about groups like the Nation of Islam, right? Who have always had conservative underpinning, right? They believe in capitalism. They believe in their right-wing moralism and conservative. They're conservative in lots of ways. Maybe I'm just becoming old, but I do see sometimes some value in those arguments, not to negate the issues of political economy, not to negate the critique of capitalism. But the truth is, if people generally were to spend less money on things they don't need, if they were to generally not fetishize capitalism, if they generally spent money in their own communities, our lives would be substantively better. And so it doesn't actually solve the problem that is produced by capitalism as our mode of production. As long as you're in the context of a class-defending state, you're going to have all kinds of problems around mass incarceration, I mean, all the things, right? But if I were trying to organize people, and it seems like all the, the Nation, the Panthers, as we organize people across these traditions, there is some value to teaching discipline, to teaching community investment, things that don't solve the ultimate problem, but maybe get people into a space to even hear the critique you're offering. Do you worry ever that if we go too far to the this don't really work ultimately argument, we don't even get people into the penultimate space?
I have worried about that, and that's why initially I wrote this book with every effort to suppress my actual politics, because I didn't want there to be a distraction with what are my actual politics. I just wanted people to focus on this one myth. So my point is that so ultimately what I'm trying to say is that it's not that there's no value in all that you've described. It's that the problem becomes this is not used as a way to get people into a room to teach more about how the economy actually works and what could be done to upset it, or what our relationship is to it and what could be done to upset that. It's used as a final sort of culminating political goal that will lead us to our salvation. So I'm simply saying there's this long tradition that is as long as this has been argued that has been showing that it doesn't work. So it's and largely because a capitalist economy has already established through what Marx called the primitive accumulation of wealth, has already captured all of the primary and dominant mechanisms for producing wealth in this society. So that's one part of it. So starting businesses is not a solution. It's also not how the wealth of this society was created by those who hold it. So they're even advocating that we do something that others have never done. They didn't start by circulating their dollars and starting small businesses and supporting within their community. The capitalist accumulation was violent. It was land grabbing, genocidal, enslaving. It was war. It was suppression of other economies. It was theft. It was greed. It was murder. That's where all the wealth how they accumulated all this wealth. And then they tell us to do something else. And what I've been learning more and more is that that's been done by design. The argument around Black capitalism has been literally used as a psychological warfare technique to keep Black people away from radically politically organizing through what is our only means of actual power, political organization and movements. So even to your point, if it's understood backwards, if we encourage more in our community to save and spend more frugally and responsibly, we will end up hurting working people in those parts of the economy where many of our people are who depend on us going to this or that business or spending this or that. So that's, by the way, how capitalism in this society works. It's 70% consumer based. If people, as we saw during the pandemic, stop spending, the economy collapses and the rich start to panic. Then they have to do all the things that we saw them do, use public policy to create money out of nowhere and redistribute it to themselves. So what I'm actually advocating is that instead of telling us, and I'll come back to a moment how the buying power is actually a mythology, but my point ultimately is instead of telling us to business our way to equality, what we should be saying is we should be valued more for our consumption. The consumer, it's the engagement.
What does it mean to value us more for our consumption?
Well, for me, it would be to redistribute the wealth that's created in this world. I mean, we have to remember that, first of all, we were just looking at it. It's somewhere around $150 trillion in private wealth is generated in this country every year. Around $450 trillion in private wealth around the world is generated every year, except only 1% have it. And that wealth is generated through our labor, through our consumption. When we pay bills, when we buy the $10 lattes, when we go to the club, when we buy rims, when we get our hair done, when we buy our clothing, even from our own Black-owned businesses. That is the exchange that creates a profit and creates wealth. The only problem is that is just ever accumulated, ever upwards to the point where we have, again, 0.1% have all the wealth. We have 700, Forbes just reported 737 people in this country are worth $5 trillion plus. That's not because they were good business people and what they were. They
vitamins and said their prayers. That wasn't how they got it.
No, I was just at a conference where an elder brother told us black people are poor because we're not going to church enough. We're not morally fit, and that was so disturbing to me. It was so. My point is, that just took me back to that moment. But that's the problem. So instead of saying don't shop, we should be saying no. You should value me more by redistributing that wealth more. So the wealth it's so again, I tell the story all the time, but I was at a popular sporting goods store around where I live to buy my daughter her soccer gear. And we get to the cashier and the brother says, would you like to, in addition to this, give some extra money to cancer research? And I said, no. And he and everybody in the line started looking at me crazy. And I was like, yeah, like you're not going to shame me in front of my child. So I said, look, quick Google, look up the owner of this sporting goods store. He's a multi-billionaire. This store generates billions of dollars every year because I just spent $80 on a soccer ball and some socks.
Why am I donating in his proxy? He should be donating to cancer and me.
Exactly. And you behind the cashier should be making more and working less. That should be, that's what I'm saying. We should all have more because that's, again, not to go too much into that Marxist guy, but the point is he made the point. Capitalism shows the contradiction of capitalism. It shows we can produce everything we need. Everybody can have what they need. It's if we redistribute it. And so that's really what my point is. So just quickly, because I don't want to lose.
That's actually a good segue to the last thing I want to talk to you about.
But real quick, I just want to clarify one point about the mythology of buying power.
What do you think about this? This your first time seeing it?
I understand his premise. I think that he makes a great point, which should be an epiphany for people in saying they acquired land without a mortgage.
Right.
They acquired land without debt, right? And owing someone, you know. They took these things. Eminent domain was the thing to do. So now when you're building on those things, you don't have a monthly cost associated. Right. So it's much more, it's expeditious to get on high at that point. You know, you were allocated as a people certain constructs that every society needs to sustain, whether it was the Irish who got the police departments or the Italians who got the fire departments, you know, and that thing certainly matters to the populace of people. You know, and without people buying stuff at Walmart or buying stuff from Amazon, there's several black people who don't have a job if you don't spend that money.
All right.
So both hands wash the other, both wash the face. So I understand that well. The first video, she simply said the trillion is gross income. It's before any expenses or overhead costs, essentially.
Right.
So when you start paying bills, that trillion is an arbitrary number because people have to buy things, they have to survive, they have to pay their bills before you can calculate what the actual spending power is, the liquidity of that money. So those things resonated well for me. That's what I picked up mainly.
So the part that stood out to me the most in this, and so first I want to say I appreciate Mark for his retort, right? Because I already know, again, when people see things like this, the automatic retort is like, oh, you trying to act like black people have an issue. So I'm glad Mark answered that question. I remember one time I heard someone say it was like a general or someone talking about war. And it was like the next war is going to be information. And in my mind, I said, well, when it comes to black people in America, the information war has been here since we existed. The psych op of information, right? The misinformation of black people. So again, right, when you tell everyone else to pull yourself up from your bootstrap, work hard, but then you look at the founding of this country, and a white man was the first person to tell me, hey man, work smart, not hard. Y'all be promoting this grit and grind for what? It's a badge of honor for everybody else, but we always figuring out ways to play the system that we created, but we want y'all to work hard. And when you don't work hard, we're going to shame you. And when you're poor, we're going to shame you. When you're a criminal, we're going to shame you. But the way the country became what it was through crime. You see what I mean? Yeah. So that psych op, that's why something like the buying power thing, because he talks about in his lecture how the idea of buying power, it's not even a real thing. Because what power, right? He talked about how you can go to the bank and get, and not so much now, but it's how you can go to the bank and get $30,000 for a car loan. But if you want to start a business, what happens? Right? What industries can we collectively go and take over without having to go to war? What actual buying power do we have? You talking about spending?
Yeah.
But when you hear it on the surface, buying power, then they add the part about what we're rich. We'll be the 5th richest nation, right? It continues to kind of push this narrative that if black people just get their shit together, everything will be okay for them. And we consume it, we accept it without any pushback either.
Indeed, I agree. One thing who we're not keeping open is McLaren. We're not keeping the McLaren car company open.
Yeah. Right.
So we obviously know, right? This consumerism is a culturally American phenomenon.
For sure.
You know, but it always gets, you know, we wear this and wear that. But if you go to affluent white places, they have every label on you can imagine.
Right.
And they open up those stores, right? Prada has a store in the middle of DC, right? When you're getting towards the capital, right? Towards where a lot of more of the white people live. Georgetown, covered in designer, right? Where most of the white people live, right? So even that's a misnomer.
Right.
And most of our spending is on toilet paper, not on Gucci.
Yeah, I remember hearing Sporty say that. Yep.
Shout out to Sporties. Right. He's 100% accurate. We buy commodities and pay our bills.
Yep.
But we never question it.
Never question it.
We wear Jordans.
And that's been one of my concerns, particularly like now, consuming all this information, is that why are we so ready to accept from the same group of people that we scrutinize for other reasons, but as far as the information, our visceral reaction is just to accept it. And you saw that with the 33%. Now, I'm not saying just because she was white, it happened. You know, I make that faulty correlation in my mind, which I'm gonna talk about in a second. These faulty correlations that we keep doing with research is very dangerous, because if you take a stat class, day one, one of the first things you're gonna learn is correlation does not equal causation. That's one of the first things you're gonna learn in a high school stat class. Yeah. It can't happen. But there are a lot of biases in regards to two things. One, I think collecting the research, which I know most people here aren't doing, but their interpretation of the research that they read is very problematic, because there are a lot of biases in regards to statistics. One of the ones that we all are kind of familiar with is confirmation bias. I already have an idea. So when I prompt ChatGPT, I'm going to prompt it based on my ideas about the subject that I'm already looking for.
Yeah.
So when it produces information, it's going to be biased because the prompt was biased.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's another one called selection bias, where you choose samples that aren't actually representative of the entire population, but you in your mind and in your speech extrapolate to the entire population.
Yeah, 100%.
Another one is like historical bias, which a lot of people who are, familiar with AI are concerned, right? Because all this bad information that has been pushed out for generations, that's what built the machine. So when the machine gives you information, it's based off these same faulty data sets that were faulty because of things like racism or all the other different elements of the world that have gotten us where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that people who do the work have to consider and have to be scrutinized before peer review, before this information comes out. Now, the one thing that, it is kind of an exercise I'm gonna do with you, him, because I know you're a very intelligent brother, so you'll get it, right? The correlation fallacy. It's so easy to do it on this survey, right? So there's a guy by the name of Robert Matthews in the 80s. He conducted this, like on purpose, this kind of experiment, this bad science experiment, just to show how faulty correlations can be. So you ever heard the myth about storks and babies?
Yes.
So he was able to conduct some research that showed that when you have a high amount of storks, you're going to have a high amount of babies. He was actually able to create the study, and that's what the results produced. That's what they showed.
How?
When you have a high amount of storks, you have a high amount of babies.
So you're talking about the bird stork?
bird, stork,
and human babies.
Human babies.
Are they in proximity to one another? Is it just storks and babies?
You're too smart. You're too smart, man. You're too smart. I don't like that. You're too smart. You're killing the riddle. But when I talked about biases, right? A lot of times when we have these discussions, we're always missing other key variables that will help us get closer. It wouldn't give us a causation, but it'll get closer to being able to start discussing possibly causations. But with these two variables, we can't do that, right? So like you just said, what he showed was the missing variable in this equation was geography. Because when you have less urbanization, it's going to be more birds. In rural areas, based on some of the principles of those people, they're going to have more children too. There's no correlation between them fucking birds and them babies.
Yeah.
But I can make the research look like that, and I can give it to y'all, and y'all say, well, no, when you have a higher percentage of storks, it's going to be a higher percentage of babies. No, we missing some variables.
He's saying yes. And when was that study? You remember the year?
In the 80s. He did that in the 80s, maybe like early 90s.
Okay. So if you live in rural or farm land, the need for kids, right? The value of children to work the land is uber, right?
Right.
And because it's not overpopulated,
exactly,
the birds live there.
Right. It's not affected by urbanization. There's more aquaculture, so there's going to be more birds there.
Yeah.
But what I can do is if I have nefarious intent, I'll put that research out and leave that variable out. Because guess what I know? I know most people aren't going to say, well, what could be some other variables that could be contributing to this that I can attribute to? They're not going to do that. They're just going on face value. They're going to say that. And guess what? We do that a lot. The perfect example, right? The divorce stat, right?
Yeah.
We go gender, divorce initiation equals women are fucked up. That's what we do. And then you got somebody like Sean, like, wait, there are other variables that we could consider that might get us closer to being able to have a discussion. But because, we want to have the salacious fun, it's more fun. We skip that. And my concern is, and I sent you another DM real quick, Ham. You can see the last one I sent you from Brother Vance, Mr. Vice President. Mm-hmm. He did something similar. I want everybody to see that real quick to say why I'm saying if we as Black people don't be a little bit more judicious about how we interpret, discuss, research, like we're opening doors that are already open, but we basically open them larger for people to do these things to us.
Yeah.
And I'm saying let's have the conversation y'all want to have. Let's talk about improving the community. But when y'all get away from the anecdotal experience of your life, and y'all start trying to validate these conversations with stats, as a person who works in statistics, works in research, I'm like, nah, we gotta do it the right way, y'all. We have to. I don't know if you see the deal.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up.
Yep.
Hold on. Trying to pull it up. Yeah.
You see, the last one I sent.
Yeah, I think the responsibility is very important. And simply,
Have you ever heard this quote?
We've been irresponsible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this one.
You're talking about the immigrants.
So, play it. Okay.
Well, I don't think if you can kind of just make it bigger to see what and their response was perfect. But y'all see what he says, right? The connection between illegal immigrants and skyrocketing housing costs is clear as day. We are proud to be moving in the right direction. So much to do. So just think about he's made a correlation between immigrants and housing prices skyrocketing, and their retort was perfect.
Yeah, she says, all I do is New Gwen. Yeah, I was going to buy a $750,000 home in East Bay, but the guy mowing lawns outbid me. Shut the fuck up.
You see what I'm saying? Like stupid shit. But it's so easy to get that off, particularly now, right? Because we were talking about this in the Discord. The idea of experts as a community, this ain't just a Black thing. As a community, as Americans, we've accepted what you need an expert for. If it makes sense, it makes sense. Anybody can get up. Anybody with a YouTube page, with a popular Instagram could be a beacon for right in regards to information. That's very dangerous. That's a very dangerous. I think nations have failed for reasons like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm starting to wonder, as a person who, like I said, went to school for some of these things, like trying to understand as individuals, how do you determine credibility when you look at information? Do you just accept it on face value? Is your first, because we were taught in our master's program, your first response should question it. That should be your first response. Just question it. See where it leads you. You might find yourself back in the same spot. Okay, sound research. Okay, cool. But your first thing should be to question it. And then the second thing is, and you and I talked about this briefly, I'm trying to understand, right? Like, again, I accept and I acknowledge as Black people, we have work to do. But I also wonder sometimes when we talk about Black people, right, and we start to do our assessments, do we only assess ourselves on how close we are, like, to white people? So I use the housing example, right? I think home ownership for white people is 74%. For Black people, it's around 45%. Redlining ended around 1968. So we got, let's just say for the sake of the conversation, we have 50 plus years of not being bothered in regards to home ownership. And we've been able to accumulate 45% of the homes in America. Is that something to celebrate? Because we ain't quite at 74%. Yeah. But I know the group that has 74% didn't have a government sanctioning racist housing practices against them. The other group did, and despite that, in 50 years, they've been able to accumulate not 45% of the homes, I'm sorry, 45% of their race group owns homes.
Yeah.
Right. Like those small things right there, I think mean a lot. That's why I say as a propagandist, right? I can look at that two different ways. I can be like, we got to do better, y'all. We bullshitting. Or I can say, despite what's going on, here we are. How can we get to the 74% if that's our mark? But I don't know what the metric is, because I know we kind of dance in data and then we dance in how we feel about things. Yeah. So I don't know what, as Black people, do we have numbers for the metrics to say success? Is it 50% of Black people own a home, or we can finally start clapping? Is it 65%? I don't know, because we haven't set those markers.
Yeah, you're saying what's positive when you look at the entire picture,
right?
And we know what happens is the law will change, and then it takes time to come to fruition fully, right? So if it ends in 1968, I would give it another 5-10 years before you get people to stop thinking that way, to stop saying, no, this is a white neighborhood, right? Because the loan officer's still white, and he's still been selling mortgages in that neighborhood to white people for the last 20 years. So to think that he's just going to instantly cooperate is willfully obtuse.
Right.
So to your point, when do you clap?
Right.
Because there's no metric to say 40% isn't enough.
Right.
Or is too little, right? It's just under 50%. So people see us or see it as negative when we're comparing to somebody who acquired a lot of things with no cost.
Another one, right? I understand the response, right? Black women in education. I understand the response because, fellas, I agree. I've seen that stat be weaponized to say Black women are in some way better than Black men because they have more degrees. We know that's bullshit, right?
Yeah.
But if we can get out of our pettiness for a second and say, okay, if Black women aren't the most educated, where are they? Because considering the conditions and what they've been through, to be in the 1 or 2%, I mean, to be number 1 or 2 on their list, to have obtained the most education, that is something we should be applauding and saying, hey, let's keep doing the work. But we done got caught up in this back and forth where we've used something that could be considered a positive thing. It's like, throw that shit away. Fuck how much education y'all got, because y'all trying to make it seem like y'all better than us. That's what I'm saying. The psych ops that get played on us, and I just want us to take a breath and reset a little bit.
Yeah, what I hear in that example is responding in kind.
Matching energy. Yep.
Right. Matching energy with the women, essentially. right? Now I understand correction and it's necessary, right? And saying what's actual factual, but we've done it at the detriment though, right? So it went past correction and then it seems like it's now has a malintent to it. Right. Which that goal, if that's the goal, then we would have to question that goal. To this because what I hear often is they disparaged us for 50 years, so now it's their turn.
Yep. Literally.
You know,
and over the holidays, like I told you, I was sitting with my cousin, man. I was saying, bro, like, you know, despite what I didn't grow up in a 2-parent home. I remember being a kid, bro, and seeing all of my older relatives drive Cadillacs. And so I'm talking to my cousin, like, bro, do you know like what you come from? Like your folks, your granddaddy
is getting
own homes. When it comes, my granddad was known as the money man in Jackson. Like he did the taxes for all the major institutions back home. Like left his family something. And I'm saying like growing up as a kid, right? Because I'm seeing a dysfunction between my mom and dad. Like I never even got to say like, bro, like I didn't grow up middle class, but I come from a family who was able to reach middle class status as Black people. And I'm saying the Cosby show and all that is gone now. We don't have that. We don't have those types of images as much as we should. But we have people who come from there who know what that looks like. That I hope can find the time the same way we scrutinize them baby mamas and the women twerking at the funeral, like to tell those stories too, to let people know like we ain't that far removed from it. We just got some work that we got to do to kind of get it back to the forefront. Because right now it's not at the forefront. But from my estimation, help, you know, and you know, we fight about this all the time. And I appreciate you, right? Because I see it and I notice how you don't get that many likes. Every day I see you posting something positive. As minute as it might be, you post something positive about what a Black person is doing. And I'm saying I think it's necessary for the psyche part. For the psyche, for people who might not be what they need to be, can say, oh, okay, it's people that look like me still doing it, who come from the same situations I come from. So it's possible. Now I got to figure out a couple of things, how to do it, how to get around people who are doing it. These are the things I got to consider, despite what's going on around me. And I think that's often being lost because I always say, like, I'm going to include myself too, right? I think our generation can be very immature sometimes in the way we deal with the world and the way we look at problems, that I think it prevents us from really like buckling down and kind of getting to where we're trying to go. So again, the inspiration from this segment or this show today was just like seeing stuff like that and just being like, how is this missed? Right? How do all these myths get disseminated around the world about Black people? We just accept it. Even we accept it. So I can just imagine because you had a show about this, HAMP, where we know other people are watching the dysfunction and they're benefiting from it. The cat is out the bag. It ain't just a Black conversation. There are other groups of people watching what's happening between us, and they add into the fire.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do now?
Literally profitability, and they know we don't research, check, you know, anything. As long as it goes with our bias and it confirms it, we tend to repeat it. You know.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's really the lack of scrutinizing and understanding how to use this information appropriately has continued us to be topsy-turvy, right? Like, as an example, we talk about being in the matriarchy, you know, and then we literally follow the lead of the women.
Yeah.
By saying, well, they did it, now it's their turn.
Right. Yep.
But no man ever has said, yeah, I'm gonna do what the women do, positively speaking, in terms of fighting, how they fight. You know, but we took it and we say, you know what, this hurt us and was effective seemingly about our image. So now we got to flip it, right? But all it does is leads us closer to 2053.
Yep.
Now, this is not ignoring the correction that's needed and necessary, you know, but the way in which you do things got to mean something.
And HAMP, I think the majority of the content creators that have these conversations, they don't have nefarious intent in regards to the information. You know, I can't vouch for all of them. I've been around you. We've had conversations offline. I know you have real intent about seeing your people rise. That's what you do it for. But I can't speak, so I won't say they have nefarious intent. But as you said, if you're gonna be using data and using statistics, you have a responsibility to do it the right way. If you're knowingly spreading misinformation, disinformation, I think that should be something we should say, nah, man, we can't, nah. And I ain't talking about shutting nobody pays down, but I'm saying, like, I don't want to be the only person that got to pop up on the panel and be like, all right, so let's talk about the information that you're using. Like, do you really know the inner workings of the study? What's the sample size? Is it statistically significant? What's the p-value? What was the hypothesis? You see what I mean? Like, that's how research is scrutinized. When you talk about peer review, that's what normally happens in arenas where people are scrutinizing data. But I know on YouTube, that's not what's going to happen. So we've seen today 2 myths that's been able to go around the world without no real validation.
Yeah.
Why?
You're 100% right. We didn't have this outlook. We didn't have this edification. You know, we didn't have a scientist, right, who look at data and engineers in this way to say, wait. The reason they generated this, the why behind it, right? There's a narrative that they're trying to paint, which makes a difference in this information being disseminated and how this research is conducted.
Right.
Like, you know, and you go to these old examples, and maybe I shouldn't do it, but it's been obvious to us what they did in Tuskegee. Right. So they know that they're willing to mislead.
Right.
You know, to conduct their research because it benefits whatever they think it should benefit, while lying to people and killing people in the process. Right. So what has changed?
Real quick, I'm gonna tell you about my thesis experience and how even my own confirmation bias, like doing my research, I was awakened, right? So when I was developing my thesis paper, I wanted to focus on, there was another myth about Black men. That was my question. Okay. I heard as a Southern Black man that Black men don't care about that. We don't go to the doctors because we don't care. Right. And guess what? There is some truth to that, but that's what you do in science. Sometimes you got to work to prove yourself wrong, which is what my intent was, because my hypothesis was it got to be something else. Now, it was a little more sophisticated than that, but I don't remember exactly the question. So when I conducted my research, I found out, right, we already know the obvious, the historical implications. You just talked about Tuskegee. We all know there's a book called Medical Apartheid that talks about the Black experience in Westernized medicine and how y'all familiar with what's her name? Oh my God, her cells were used. Henrietta Lack. Her cells were used to literally a lot of cancer innovation, everything. Her cells were used without her family even approving it. They done made billions of dollars this lady's cells. All these different types of things have happened to Black people, right? But then I also discovered some other things like the design of a medical waiting room is geared towards women. Right. And so we don't consider what the effect of being a man going for a prostate exam. And I'm looking around, everything pink, all the brochures are for women. It's an uncomfortable situation. We want people to be like, it don't matter. You go to the doctor. No, these things actually affect people's choices in regards to healthcare. Yeah. So I could have left it there and say, you know what? Yeah, they don't care about the health because they're scared to go to the doctor. And they worry about history. Nah, I had to go further, go deeper, right? Pause. So what I ended up doing, and I missed the opportunity with this too. We developed the locker room concept, where we were going to create a waiting room that's geared towards men. Right? We're gonna put males. We're gonna create things that are familiar with men. We're gonna create this and even like replicate it. And we actually built one in Clayton County. In the Clayton County Board, we created a locker room where you had pictures of football and things like that, basketball, sports. The paint colors, all these things were designed specifically for men because we realized it's not that men don't care about their health. It's just the healthcare system isn't geared towards men, and it actually has an impact on their decision making. So we could just be like, hey, nah, nigga, it don't matter. Instead of doing it, let's solve the problem. Let's see what happens when we create a healthcare environment that's actually geared towards men. And we saw in that particular clinic, there was an uptick of male patients.
Yeah. You know, that is, and I've seen it in a couple different areas, but it resonates, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you take bar stools out of a club, people drink more because they feel uncomfortable just standing there with something not in their hand. Right. People will sit and be more casual and laid back, but if they are standing up, they feel like they should have a drink in their hand. Right. Just speaking of the comfort. Iowa, one of my buddies went there. He played in the NFL as well. The away team locker room is pink.
Okay.
So when you play Iowa, you go in that locker room, it's pink. Right? Psychologically, it doesn't make sense.
On purpose.
If you listen to the vice versa, and everything's pink around you. Right? So there are psychological implications to these things. Athletes, right? Just come thinking about what you're saying. Oftentimes need someone to get them over the PTSD of their injury. A lot of times the healing process at the end is largely predicated on their mindset.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Because they don't want to
be scared.
And that's why you see the NFL, you're like, how did he come? Because they are pouring into that man in every single facet, mentally, physically, the best medicine. But if he don't think he can do it, he won't do it. No, that's real.
Yeah. So that was a great that entire experience, right? So doing the thesis paper, man, having to do research. I think I had to have like 60 references, something like that. Was crazy, man. But I got it done. But that's what I'm saying, man. Like real thorough science and research. That's the process. And if we're going to start involving that in our discussions about whatever, it ain't gets to be black people, whatever it is, like there's some tenets, some principles you have to be aware of, because you could be easily fooled. And that's what Dr. Matthews' experiment showed. More storks, more babies. So the stork must be bringing a kid, right? No, there are variables that we're missing.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So yeah.
No, it's 100% an awesome thing to continue to consider, you know. And you see it a lot, man. If people don't go to like a boxing gym and they just watching YouTube and all of that, there's things about the science they just do not understand because there's so little context with these trainers, right? You don't know the why, right? There's movements that they're not even speaking about or doing because this is for cardio, you know? And then these same gentlemen will show up in a boxing gym where it's fighters and want to fight because they've been doing good in a hit class that had gloves, you know, but they're missing so much key word of the day, context, you know. They hitting the bag all hard and don't understand that their full extension isn't there because they're not turning their wrist. It just a plethora of things, you know, why they can't generate power in the same way because nobody gave them context to what they're looking at.
And I've always found like healthcare data, I'm just always weary of it because I learned that there are different requirements for publicly funded healthcare institutions and systems versus private. And so, we can start doing the math. Who's more likely to go to public institutions in regards to healthcare? Poor people, minorities, right? We already know the prescription. Private institutions who are not required to provide their results, who's getting the STDs or whatever these things may be. They're not required to. Some are, you know, there's different things, but we know most publicly funded. Last time I went to go get an exam, right? I went to a public spot and said, hey, just need to get a quick STD panel. And the lady told me, well, you know, all this information going to the government. Like what your results are is going to the government. Like that's a standard. So again, just understanding that thing when we having this discussion, I think just makes a more fruitful discussion. And then once we kind of operate from the same principles, again, it's not that we can't have a conversation. We just know that there are possible biases. We shouldn't be getting to conclusions. We shouldn't be creating these faulty correlations between two variables that we do so much. We should have more questions than answers. Honestly, I think if I had a message there should be more questions.
Yeah.
I just think too often we get to conclusions because we want to win discussions. As Hamp has said a few times, we want to beat the women. I get it. I understand. But I just think if anything, we're replicating the bad behavior that they did in the 90s. And I just don't think long term it's not getting us closer to the goal that people are saying that we have. So let's get some contradictions.
This show we got to do in totality. The unqualified opinion, like Sean be saying.
Yeah.
Because there's a slippery slope with that. There's a fine line, you know.
Yep.
And the engagement factor is key, you know. But is it too, right? If we misleading too many people, right? And when we have these conversations, just like we did with the mentorship panel, it's always the least amount of people, right?
For sure.
But don't mean it. We can't do it, right? And I enjoy these because the edification is key, right?
Right.
And I think it'll get good playback for sure. You know.
Sure. Yep.
Damn, man.
Perfect.
Here's the thing, and I say this to you, we're not going backwards. I think I had to accept that for a second, right? Because I was one of the people. I'd be glad when it ain't going nowhere. It's not. All y'all that decide to grab these mics, become a voice, become a moderator, you are now going to be looked at as a voice for communities. And just like everybody else, you're going to get held responsible. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
You're going to get held responsible by history, by your people, by your fans that fall in love with the enamor and get enamored by what you do and all those things. You're going to be held responsible. So at least try, right, to do things the right way, because history going to judge you, man. And we just have to see what happens. But it's not going backwards. Old media, right? People laugh at CNN. That's WWE. They get two people to argue on opposite side, and they cuss each other out there. Like, but you're my friend, we're gonna do coffee after they done cuss each other out for 30 minutes. It's like it's WWE.
Yeah, you know, the CNN thing. I agree. That shit is terrible.
Yeah, I don't look at none of that stuff.
It gives you insight into these relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I had gotten into trouble, I had one lawyer, right? He wasn't good. Came to the courthouse drunk. I was able to get him out of there, get another lawyer. That second lawyer had a relationship with the prosecutor, and everything changed.
Yep.
Right? They're not actually opposing each other. They're doing the job.
Yep.
And that's what we see on CNN.
Yep.
They're just doing a job.
For sure.
The edification is less necessary than the sensationalism. You know?
Yep.
Man, that's key.
Yes, I be seeing it, man. I think again, these conversations can be fruitful when we start incorporating certain things. Like let's make sure we know what we're talking about. He said the qualified opinion, that's important. I think that's very important because I think we don't. It's an unintentional consequence where we start to kind of like get lax about the way we discuss information. Then you got people from India. Look what they say about themselves. It got to be true.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, because the person talking they don't know. They saw a percent behind a number and they said it must be a fact because CDC put it out.
Yeah.
It must be a fact.
Fear is a mind killer for us, Shah. You know, like it really, really is. Questioning things because we don't understand and we refuse to read really, really hinders us.
Right.
You know, like when we go into just so many situations, we so unsure. You know, when we go into a police station, police stops, right? You know, to prosecute, you know, just everything, right?
Right.
You know, back when I was a little bit more hard-headed, I used to hate to go to court and somebody be dressed up in front of me. Come like,
that wasn't me.
Yeah, like, this their first time, you know, like, but it's just so, you know, but we so nervous.
I told you about my situation, bro. I got, I was a little smoking in the car. Dude there, and you want to get it up, you got to give us 8. And to this day, I'm just like, I ain't asking no question. I was just so scared that it was gonna be on my record. And now ain't no more federal, ain't none of that. I paid, but I still think about to this day, like, I should have got a second opinion before I just gave them folks some bread, telling me that's how much it cost to get out my. It might didn't cost them, but fear was the reason why I just want to get it over with. So you're 100% right.
Yeah, 100%, man. We carry so many things. Like even when we look at the family courts, right? And there we understand there's a disparity, right? Laws are often created as a response, you know. But men, because we are unedified, we don't want to trigger anything. We think these things are mutually exclusive, you know, and we just move in a way in which we're so weary and afraid, right? And wonder why people take advantage of that fear.
Right.
You know, and so it's okay to question this stuff. And when you saw people get questioned, they didn't have an answer.
Yeah.
Hopefully people took from that, oh shit, these motherfuckers ain't that sharp.
Yeah.
Not that bright. They don't actually know. They're not expecting pushback.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So
and it's okay not to know. Yeah. We gotta remind ourselves that I have to remind myself sometimes that, you know, masters or not, bro. It's a lot of stuff I don't know. I get smarter being around y'all. You know, some of the conversations we have talking, bro, like it's a lot of dudes with a lot of information, bro, in these around these parts, these spaces, bro. So soak it up.
Yeah, real rap. And
we should be learning from each other.
I've seen a thing, right? And this really matters, man. Conceding, accepting, applying, right? Look, Callie just sent a message, right? So I was explaining on the disrespect show. I don't know if you said, I think it was like a Friday.
Yeah.
And I was explaining that you are talking about fighting when you're talking to a man with that type of language. Even though you didn't say it, that's you're talking about fighting. And Callie was up there chilling, you know, because she had said in the clip, we ain't talking about fighting, right? But I was explaining it, she's like, oh, I can see that. That's valuable. Like that right there is like what you need. Like, yo, yeah. If I'm telling the nigga, all right, nigga, did that, like, that's, you know.
Because hell, tell me if I'm off, right? When you hear a dude talking crazy, you thinking in your mind, he think he can beat me up. That's the only reason why this is happening.
He talking to me like that,
right? Because he think you whoop me. That's we as men, we know that's how it goes. The only reason why you do that because you think I got this one, so let me go ahead and get it popping. That's only because when we've seen it. I've seen men pick and choose on my entire life. I see it so much on the basketball court when they think it's the same thing, they ready. When they not sure, the vibrato is different. You always meet that one dude. He don't matter. He ready to go to war with anybody. I don't know what it is about him. He 5'4", but 5'5". He's like, I don't care. I whatever. But that ain't most of the guys. Most of the guys they figuring out. You know, they smart enough.
I'm gonna tell you this though, right? The dude who little like that, like how you said, cause I seen that. He's expecting the grace that women expect.
Okay. I ain't never thought about it that way. It makes sense.
A little ass out of here. Like, you know, he'll get that type of nigga. You better sit your little ass down. Like there's like a warning, you know.
Okay.
Where if it was a man of physical prowess and he tell me, yo, we gonna go right, like we're gonna have to get it in right then, right? You've already said what you needed to say.
Right.
You know, but a little ass, and you like, you know, sit your little ass down somewhere before I hurt you. You know, like, you know. So I've seen that. Now we kind of veering off, but I just you know, I've seen that.
Kicking it.
Yeah, there was even the studs, bro. The studs be the funniest.
I ain't never had no run in with a stud.
I had the worst run in with a stud, man.
Oh, yeah, you told me that story. It was crazy.
Yeah, I'm like, now you pistol-less. You can't do nothing. Well, yeah, man. Listen, I'm gonna drop the link one more time, but yo, this is fruitful, right? I think oftentimes people belabor shit, you know.
Right.
Unless anybody had any pushback or clarification of what was discussed, I think that this is super valuable.
Yeah.
You know?
I ain't expect too much pushback. Again, you know, like I said, first go around, you know what I mean? I could understand how, especially the way I, you know, came up about it. It's just like, nah, bro, I just want us to, with everything, improving behavior, all that, even improving our minds, bro. Just the way we look at information. Because, like I said, the information war, the psych op on black people, we've been fighting this forever. Like I said, birth of a nation, bro. They've been thinking we've been in love with. Now I know some dudes that Malcolm X haters run in, right? But this idea that we like hiding in bushes, waiting for a white woman to pop up, right? And they've been pushing that. They the propaganda that we want their women, all this type of stuff. This was one of the first blockbuster movies in America. Birth of a Nation. So it's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, no, real rap. We've been seeing it forever, man, and we've seen a semblance of it, on YouTube. White woman pop up, white person pop up. It's like they got a halo over their head or something.
Right. This little extra scrutiny. That's it. You ain't got to totally dismiss it because it's negative about us. All science ain't necessarily bad, but I'm saying just kind of understand, particularly talking about, because let me say this too real quick, like surveys in regards to hierarchies of like statistical data, like surveys is the bottom because it's self-reported.
Yeah.
It's self-reported. I'm either say something to make it worse, I'm gonna say something to make it better. That's on the bottom of the totem pole of statistical analysis. Survey, the bottom.
Yeah.
I think like the meta analysis, which is like that get into that crazy math that I know most of us. I ain't been that high up yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it can get real wicked to really get down to causation and things like that. But most of us, most of the information we talk about is literally survey data. And that's what we be arguing about on the internet. The lowest one on the totem pole.
Yo, to your point, I was looking at this. And there's even a number. To properly extrapolate data, you need statistically valid sample size, often guided by a confidence level like 90% or higher for accuracy, not just a single percentage. The required sample size depends on the population size, but around 10% of up to 1,000 is a common guideline. While extrapolation methods, linear, polynomial, assume trends continue, but needs caution as errors grow further from known data. Right?
Yep.
Like that's key to really then extrapolate a number so that 2,000 wasn't enough. As we talk, with the herpes stat, essentially.
Yeah.
Because we had looked this up before.
And the reason why they're always talking about caution, being careful, because as much as we don't want to accept it, data informs policy, which actually affects lives. So these myths that we just accept because we want to have an argument, it don't just stay in our vacuums on YouTube. This same misinformation is used to inform policy.
Literally, Shad, in our neighborhoods, and I'm speaking for Black neighborhoods, and I was in them, right? Northeast DC, Benning Road in Minnesota, Mayfair Paradise, Suitland, Maryland, District Heights, Maryland, where you have a poor populace. They were giving out the Johnson & Johnson one-shot vaccine, right? Which was damn near a placebo, but made you feel sick, right? But in those neighborhoods, I think it's the Johnson & Johnson, somebody will correct me, the Johnson & Johnson for the COVID was the one that was pushed out into those neighborhoods. And it was the one shot, you good.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
When you go past the sites and, just talking to everybody around the thing.
Right.
So because we don't question.
Yeah. You know what would be a fun exercise for everybody to do?
Okay.
I learned this in grad school. It's called a windshield survey. So I mentioned in the Discord a few times, social determinants of health, like schools, healthcare, access to capital, stuff like that. Just grab you a pen and pad, ride around your neighborhood, write down how many schools you see, how many hospitals you see, how many grocery stores you see, how many liquor stores you see. Like, if you really want to start getting into the weeds of this type of stuff, it's exercises for you to do. It's called a windshield survey. Just look it up. Conduct one of those in your neighborhood. And then I start looking at some of the data that's connected to these things I'm talking about. It's if you really want to get into the social scientist shit, it's cool. We don't just come over here and argue about statistics. Really get into it. It's actually fun because it shows you like we do have more power than we think we do as far as helping our community. But we got to kind of get edified and informed on what we need to do to be able to understand what's happening in the landscape.
Yo, Sean, one thing you had said, and we'll get Callie, about the costs that we pay, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have so many liquor stores, right, in our proximity, so many small convenience stores, right, where a cup of noodles is probably 50% markup.
Yep.
I remember one time at night we had this something happened where we didn't have any formula. So it's like 2:00 in the morning. So I go out on a Monday, Tuesday, you know what I'm saying? Like an off day. So I had to go to a corner store to get the Similac, right? And I needed a special because the babies, they twins, so they premature. You know, I needed like the sensitive. And it was a pint for $40. You know, but in the middle of the night, I mean, you pay a premium. But everything's in there, right? The Snickers bar is $2, not $1.50.
Yep.
You know, and we just kind of jump in, but because it's only $5 a day, every day, but you paying 50% on it, right? 50% markup times every day times 52 weeks times et cetera, right?
Yep.
The consumerism is super high because you being gouged.
Yep.
We ain't even thinking about that shit.
Not at all. Not at all, hell.
Damn, man. What up, Callie?
Perfect.
Damn.
What's up, fellas? Hey, that was a good point. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
That was good. Quick question though. When you guys were talking about the surveys being at the, basically, the bottom of the barrel when it comes to, extrapolating, factual data or whatever, being able to judge the landscape of what's going on, right? Where would you put the like the TikTok videos and stuff like that? Because in my mind, when you were talking about it, I was kind of looking at it as kind of being like on the same par as a self-reported survey. But then you also have to add in the sensationalism of, internet content and everything like that, and trying to get views and likes and things like that. You would kind of, you would think my first mind anyway would think that I would be extra with it just to get those clicks and views. So where would you kind of put that on the totem pole as far as how we judge the landscape with what's going on around us?
Well, I mean, a TikTok video would be considered like an anecdotal, so it wouldn't even be any type of statistical computation instrument, right? It's not something we could use to, actually like validate anything. And when I say totem pole, I couldn't think of the word. It didn't come to mind. It wouldn't come to mind. But like when I say bottom of the totem pole, again, like I said, metadata analysis to get causation, right? To be able to say this is a thing because of these two things. Surveys can get us closer to that answer, but usually surveys are just used to ask more questions. You see what I'm saying? So if it's a viral TikToker that's saying they're having an experience, I mean, it can be considered. Right, because I think consideration is not the same as like saying something is truth.
Example, Callie, right? We sent out a survey to the guys. Hey, how are the jobs going? Are they being estimated accurately, right? Are they difficult? Are you out there? Right? They like, yeah, no, we've been working longer hours, this and the third, this is wrong, whatever the case is. And I'm saying for my small company, but I was a regional manager it was, we were making like $20 million a month, right? Just to give you the landscape from Maine to Maryland and Northern Virginia, essentially. And so I'm managing, a few hundred people, right? And so they got these complaints, right? But when you look at the overtime, it doesn't reflect the complaints, right? Because you can quantify the overtime numbers. When you look at the estimates in specific areas, right? The larger areas, the margin of error was less than 10%. They weren't understaffed, but their feeling on the survey was like they getting their asses kicked. But the truth is the jobs were estimated for 10 hours and you worked 10.1, 15 hours. right? But you didn't look at the estimate to know it was a 10-hour day. You just went out there, you see? So they're not doing the due diligence, but the numbers aligned with no, what the survey reflected is nothing we need to react to. They just got to understand what it is they're dealing with on a daily basis. You see? So we started to dig into stuff because of the survey, and the surveys were essentially disproven. Just when I'm thinking about what he said, and in real time example, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I was trying to find like what's the most rigorous study design, Cali. So they consider like a randomized controlled trials, right? Because these things are supposed to like prevent bias when your sample size is random, is controlled, those types. So those are considered like the top tier of study design. Surveys at the bottom. Just because, again, those biases, we carry our biases wherever we go. So if I'm self-reporting information, they have to consider I'm biased. Even the researchers. That's why I say when we use Chat GPT, we answer those questions with our biases.
Damn,
we prompt engineer based on our biases.
Yo, that shit is. So
it's not always nefarious. It's kind of impossible not to walk through Earth and not develop biases based on your life experiences. It's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, that's a fact. Y'all know I suffer from that ailment on regular. But I'm saying like because we will use a video or a handful of TikTok videos or whatever, or just IG or wherever it's from, right? Twitter, what have you, right? I don't know what's going on Twitter. I ain't got Twitter, but we'll use those videos and extrapolate that across an entire demographic of people, whatever it is, right? Whether it be black men, black women, Mexicans, white folk, whatever. And that's why I just kind of made that correlation with the survey thing as it being like towards the bottom and everything, because that is often used as as evidence as to why we're seeing this thing, or this thing is more common than what it actually may be, or more sensationalized than more extra than what it actually is. It might be a thing, but it might not be a thing to this level where we're all like running around with our hair on fire type shit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, okay.
No, I understand exactly what you're saying.
No, so I was gonna say it's what
my man.
Based on the edification. Well, I'm pulling this from you, so then you can correct. Based on the edification from earlier, Callie, the videos being used in the way in which we use them is confirmation bias.
Yep. Because I'm searching for it, Callie. It's a selection bias too. Because the sample size isn't large enough. I need to find the most egregious video of a black person doing something to make my point. It occurred, right? There's a difference between prevalence and incident. We have an incident. What's the prevalence? See, I'm really in my bio stats bad right now. What's the prevalence of this situation?
Yeah.
We don't. I don't know. We have enough time to now. Maybe AI can go on the internet and find all the videos of a woman twerking in church, and then we can get closer to, oh, this really is a problem. We was able to find 1 million videos of women twerking in church. That's a pretty large sample size. We might be able to do something with that, but that we not there yet.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't ever get there, but we not there yet.
Callie, you ever deal with clients just on that point? Because I'm kind of making the things like more tangible. Maybe I'm only helping myself, to be fair. But I'll be looking at this shit just in terms of like how these things manifest. So we estimate, right? And I'm pretty expensive in the grand scheme of moving. And they're like, yeah, I just got to do my due diligence. I'm like, well, there's 1,000 moving companies in Houston, Texas. You got to get 500 estimates to do due diligence, right? You're going to get 2 more estimates because you've learned from the government 3 is a magic number, which is arbitrary, right? And then you're going to compare based on what? Numbers, right? But are their offerings the same, right? Are they willing to give you this if this happens, right? Because I guarantee you, Jose's moving is going to be cheaper to me, right? And Atlas is probably going to be a little bit more expensive. But what are the offerings, right? Because people say these things, but they don't. To Shad's point, they don't understand what it is they even saying. And so my ending line is, I'm not the cheapest, but I'll always be worth it. Because they say that, but they don't know what they saying.
Okay, so you deal with moving stuff, right? How I kind of correlate that too, and like the kind of bias that could be used is, I call it Amazon Claus, right? That's Santa Claus, but it's Amazon. Come to my house and give me presents. Okay, so with Amazon Clouds, if I'm looking at a certain thing, right, they may have other products that they offer, and they'll have like different like little checks, like this one does this one does that, and they'll have like different products. But I guess the bias in that would be that they're only going to pick the comparisons that makes them look better in order for you to go ahead and buy that product. And you might not even know that there might be another product out there that may do more things or even the same things, but at a cheaper price. They won't list that as a comparison to the product that they're trying to sell, type shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what's wild, Help? And I didn't talk about it when you showed the video, the buying power. But I'll post the lecture in here if you want to give it to people. He talked about how the buying power was actually a marketing tool to promote the black people. Like, y'all got bread, spend more money, y'all got it. Right? Like that was one of that was a propaganda behind the idea of buying power. Y'all got it.
That's smart.
He's spinning. Like that's why I said Nelson. We gotta dig deep into Nelson because they behind a lot of bullshit.
There is so much into marketing, right?
Yep.
Like whoever speaks first loses. I give the clients a price, right? I mean, I've estimated upwards of a couple $100,000 for like large projects, and right on the spot, like a person was moving from Illinois to here, or back, no, the other way, right? And the quote was about 18 grand, right? I gave them the estimate, said the number, right? I always say the number. People be scared. They just like, here, take a look. No, I say the number and then I print it out, they look at it and I don't say a fucking word. I sit there upright, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not flinching. I'm like this probably. And they be looking and looking, look at his wife, right? Look at the dog, looking everywhere. Right? I ain't saying a fucking word. That's the number, Whoever speaks first loses.
I've messed up a few times, but they just start, yeah, I'll pay this. It's like, damn, shut up. One thing I was thinking about, like correlations, right? And I've probably said this a few times. Like, I would love to see, because I just think in my mind, I haven't validated this. Like when you look at black people higher on the social economic scale, I would love to see the behavior comparison. Because we've all seen the stat about middle-class black people stay married longer. And what we've done in those conversations, we create the causation because they got more money. And that's what we stay. We don't ask no more questions. Like, why is it that people in that tax bracket seem to be doing a better job at maintaining their marriages versus poor people? What I've heard, usually the response is because of money, but that's just based off our assumption. Is that the only variable? You see what I'm saying? Like we just don't even think about all the other possible variables before we get to our conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
And as a standard of operating, you shouldn't think like that, because it could be money, but it might be some other factors that we're not considering.
Yeah, your framing of this conversation gives me this thought. It's because, and this gonna sound like some gay woke shit, right? And I mean that with benevolency. It's because of the journey, right? The things that my wife and I have acquired, right? How the trajectory of life has changed, from having assets and liabilities and building these businesses and the kids, right? It's beyond the dollar amounts in the bank account.
Right.
The value of a person, you had to see it because of the trial and tribulation and because of the good times, right? I think we often overweight the negatives, but the because you in that middle class bracket where everybody gotta do a part to get there, whether it was the second set of twins, you got 4 kids, right? That are 15 months apart, and we bought a house to fix up to rent, right? And I don't want to buy no money, so I'm DJing every day, right, to pay for all these things and doing work myself and etc. Right, and these my kids and somebody got to take care of them. Why not they mom, right?
Yep.
And she building disdain, right? But I'm ignoring it for the greater. Not I'm aware of it, but I'm pushing, right, for the greater goal. And she finally able to smile after it's all said and done, even though she's been mad for 6 months, right? Because we trying to beat the thing before we got to pay the first, mortgage payment, right? Trying to get it rented and shit like that. Came close, but we didn't quite, make it. But you're just trying to do all these things, then you look at that person and you look at what you built, and it's beyond the money.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Yep.
So, damn, I felt gay saying that, but it's all good.
Nah, man, you got to promote that. We need to hear more of that, bro. All us still outside struggling, man. We need to hear that.
Yeah, man.
Or the middle class experience or whatever like that just gets tossed over the shoulder because that's supposedly a minority of people, even though it's like really not. Majority of Black folk don't live in the hood like that.
Right.
So the hood is always the I guess the standard behavior for Black people as a whole is what I often find. So you base it off of that standard, and then when you come up with some Cosby Show shit, now people are looking at you like, well, that's just anecdotal.
Yeah.
It's tossed right over their shoulder.
Yeah.
This is what Black people really do. That hood shit. So I don't know.
It's not properly assessed,
Yeah, that's what it is. It's not properly assessed at all.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think I see people responding a little bit better to the bullshit. So hopefully we'll see, man. We'll see.
Yeah, I think we always headed in the right direction. We ain't quite got to the destination yet. But I always think we headed in the right direction. That we have moments in history where progress gets halted or gets reduced. I think if we look at the 60s to now, we see that. I think we're seeing it again now with some of the things that are happening where, AI is going to be a new frontier we got to figure out. Because the college degree, as a person who went and got them degrees, and I'm seeing like, Sha, you got to figure out another business move now because that degree life got a cap on it. It sounded good for 21 though, but now it's like at this age, like that degree, it's cool.
Yeah, that shit is
cool.
I tomorrow, because I want to make up for the HQ. Hopefully I get together with the brothers for tomorrow, just looking at the assessment of things, and the race card is on my mind as we assess, like, who plays it, who cares about it, who leans into it, who loves it, right? And we just been seeing some crazy shit over and over and over and over again. People are getting rewarded for overt racism, right?
Yep.
So it just, who really playing that shit? So
I'm gonna watch that one.
Yeah, that should
be a good show though, for sure.
I gotta talk to them two old motherfuckers though. Make sure they can do tomorrow. So we'll see, man. Damn, man. Perfect. Interesting. Like, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. Hit that like button right now if you can. That helps the channel the most. My brother JVZ in the building just renewed that membership.
What up, buzzing, bird, flip a dozen. Holla at your boy, you thought your cousin was.
With the JVZ in the building, man, who renewed that membership. Appreciate you, good brother. Hope all is well. Good to see you, man. VZ86 with the $5 says, great show. Salute, my brother. Red Pill Crip with the $5 says, if most Black people live check to check after bills and food, white businesses, how can we circulate our dollar amongst each other more than that 6 hours? I think you kind of answered this already. I don't know if you want to respond directly to this.
No, I mean, that's a great question. But again, we haven't developed the mechanism to actually assess it. So it's the fact that they gave us a number, and they gave us a number, right? They gave other people a number, but we found out they didn't even really do a real assessment. So again, that's why I said Red Pill. It's not to say that we don't need to look inward and make sure and assess what we're doing, but these metrics that get thrown out and get passed around that paint us in a negative light, that's not actually accurate, is important. And I think it should be important to all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I think Shaw said it earlier. This is something that was perpetuated and never proven.
Right.
And that's the key to the breakdown. You know, and we're not saying it's meritless, but it's certainly baseless because there's no baseline because they didn't do the equation necessary.
Right.
Tommy B with his husband. What's up, Hamp and Shaw? Salute, man. Salute, man. Hopefully, I think the replay playback on this should be wonderful, man. And
It
we
was,
expect, every
it
time
was a
we
nerd show. It was a nerd show, which I expected, but I'm glad the information was able to be passed. I think somebody would get something from it. You got some questions, like I said, these biases. We can talk about it because I think it's important if we're going to be the ones having these discussions. Let's have them intellectually and informed.
Yeah, 100%.
That's it. That's all it is.
Yeah, man. You got anything, Cal?
Nope, I just came to ask my question and everything like that. Finna drink me some more buzz balls.
You got kidnapped? Where you at?
No, I'm in my room.
Oh, you're. So you can usually be downstairs, I think, or doing
No, I'll
that.
be in my office. Yeah,
No,
I'll be in my office where I work at. Yeah.
word. I appreciate you hitting the link, man. Yeah, interesting. I enjoyed this show a whole lot, man. Sean, I think you did a great job just giving us the information, man. And I welcome this. I welcome this format.
Yep.
Because I'm seeing, Insane helped me with something. He said, turn off what's the thing? Subtitle so it'll convert it for you.
Okay.
He just said it like I don't think it was in the chat, right? He's like, turn this off because they said it hurts people engagement. And literally soon as I turn it off, like I don't it is maybe a combination.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit. Like it was I'm kind of mad at myself and I just didn't know. You thinking it helps you because the more languages, the more people it can reach.
Okay.
But I don't think the East Indians is watching us. Well, apparently they are, right? I guess.
Right. Yeah, they definitely watching this, right?
Yeah. So it's interesting, man. Any final thoughts, Shot?
Nah, man, I appreciate the opportunity to kind of have this conversation with you. It's something that's always on my information because I deal in information daily.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Particularly public health information. So, and I'm dealing with these scientists, and I know they don't have the same. It's not necessarily got to hate, but they don't have the same love for us as I do as a Black person. So it's like I want to make sure like we know what's going on, because there is sometimes nefarious intent. There is a disregard, a lack of context. All these things are happening as we're passing this information. So I just want to make sure we're equipped because, as they say, the next war going to be information. And if anybody has dealt with those battles, it's us. So let's be on the right side of the war. You know what I mean? Let's not give other people ammo.
Yeah, no,
That's
real
it.
shit.
That's
No,
it.
you're 100% right, man.
Nope.
I appreciate Sean, the other brothers I mentioned. One of my boys is he's an engineer, and he was top 5 to almost become an astronaut, just to articulate the level. And I asked him about a couple of things, and he's like right on par with what you be saying. He's like I said something to him about a couple of different stats. He's like, "What are you talking about?" Like he was like so like you don't even how you start there.
Yeah.
And he's obviously he's an astronaut, and then he has I forget his other one, but he went to South Carolina, USF, Carnegie Mellon. So
you're on point.
Yeah, so damn, man, interesting, man. So I hope everybody tuned in. This is dope. I didn't put too many chats on the screen. When I've been doing my editing, it kind of takes away from the professionalism a little bit. Like if we're talking and these kind of pop up, so I apologize to everybody. I try to say hi in the chat while the show is going on, just because it's kind of good to kind of have it clean on the show on the screen. So if you've seen that change where I usually pop it up there, that's why. Because just when I've been editing myself, 'cause my daughter usually be editing, I'm like, oh, that takes away from just a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
JR had actually told me that like 2 years ago. He's like, cause I was moderating. Pal, you remember when I moderated Lil Peef?
Yeah, I remember that.
And I think I shared one when he's like, oh no, he's like, don't share too much because when we clip it, he told me that like 2 years ago. So yeah. So yeah, man. Salute to everybody. Yeah, man. We'll see, man. Once Queen T send a super chat, I'll be inclined to do more of these for sure. So.
Queen T, man. Shout out to Queen T. Sure.
I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Be safe and do the right thing, man. Like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And we out.
Oh my God, it can't be. Wait, what in the name? Look up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's a super perspective. Come on in if you late. Real men, rivers also ladies, you know for sure it's safe. So join in for a smoke if you can't relate. If you super, you can bring your cape. It's all about standing 10 toes. About the ladies, not the hoes. It's about giving game back to the bros, so we can make sure the community grows. Super ham, super Sean, and super short. Just man point of views and news with no facade. If you never had powers, then you might think it's odd. Seeing brothers saving the day and we on the job, fighting off haters and villains from everywhere. Probably hit his chick and she said I never cared. From lames to incels, red pill, come pull up a chair. It's not a perspective, we not like the rest, but you already knew it's a super perspective. Different outlooks on the stats and news. It's a super perspective, we're just super